Hello. Hi. My
Hello.
name is Christopher Dickey, and I'm with the Daily Beast, and I'm hosting and moderating the Bring Our Girls Back Home Hangout today, looking at the situation of the girls who were kidnapped and continue to be kidnapped in Nigeria, and what people can do to help set them free and also to create an environment where this kind of thing doesn't happen in the future. Uh, this is co-sponsored by Girl Rising and by Smart Girls, Amy Poehler's Smart Girls. We've got wonderful people to talk to us now from Nigeria, from Abuja. We have, I'm sorry, Hafsat Abiol, who's the daughter of former President Abiola, the late president, and who is the director of the Kudirat Initiative for Democracy. From Yola, which is in northeast Nigeria, which is right where these problems are most severe. We have Fidelis Mba, who is the correspondent for the BBC. We have Gretel Trong of A World at School, Gordon Brown's organization, and I think Gordon is going to be doing a lot in the next few days in Nigeria to move this issue forward. We have Meredith Walker from Smart Girls, and we have Tara Abrams and Holly Gordon from Girl Rising, who are going to tell us exactly what can be done, what you can do to make a difference for those girls who have been kidnapped and for girls who are in similar situations in Nigeria and indeed in other countries around the world. First, I'd like to call on Fidelis Mba, the BBC correspondent in Nigeria, who is in Yola, in northeast Nigeria right now, to tell us what is going on. What do we know about the situation the girls are in? How many are still being held? Just give us any and all details that you can, because I think the world is absolutely interested to know what is going on the ground in northeast Nigeria.
Uh, okay, can you hear me now?
I can.
So, yeah, okay. Welcome everyone to this global hangout. Presently, as we speak, it's not been established how many girls are being held because there are still figures being disputed. The families are saying that that the figure is 234, and the government people have actually, that government officials have come out to say the figure could be higher, which is 276. So, but what we know is that over 200 girls are being held by these insurgents since they kidnapped on the 14th of April. And as we speak, no one actually knows the location where these girls are being held. There are speculations that they could be somewhere called Sambisa Forest. This is a forest reserve that had been used in the past by environmentalists just to safeguard the environment. But now, since the insurgency began in 2009 and more like heightened in last year, that is heightened in 2012, it made the Sambisa forest their enclave. So most times when they kidnap people or when they engage in a shootout with government people and they are repelled, they go back to this forest. So many believe that these girls are held in Sambisa forest, which is within Borno State in northeast Nigeria. Sambisa forest to this place is not so far. It's just a few hours away from where they were kidnapped in Chibok from their school. And right now, it's been a case of buck passing. The president is saying he doesn't have any much information. During his media chat on Sunday, he was even appealing to journalists to help with information if they have any. The security forces have not been forthcoming with information. The only thing they did was a few days after these girls were kidnapped, they issued a statement saying that all the girls had been rescued. It actually turned out to be a big lie, and since then the military has been very cautious in issuing any statement. As we speak, even though these girls are being held, and people don't actually know their whereabouts, there have been speculations that some of them might have died, that some of them are ill, that some of them have been married, that some of them have been ferried across Nigeria, because this area has that is on the edge of Nigeria, where you have the country has boundaries with Cameroon, Chad, and Niger Republic. So it makes it very easy, because of the porous nature of Nigerian borders, it makes it very easy for these girls or other people to be transported across these borders unchecked, because there are various routes which are not manned by security people. Even when you find security people, there are very few of them that actually resist the firepower of these insurgents, because these insurgents are heavily armed. For some of you who saw the video that was released yesterday about, by Abubakar Shekau, that's the leader of the Boko Haram, you can see that even right behind him, he had an armored tank, which one would now try to imagine how this armored tank got into the forest. So to show you how porous the Nigerian border has been over the years, is what these insurgents are taking advantage of. They've been protests both locally and internationally. In Nigeria, even in Borno State where this kidnap happened, the locals from Chibok, which is the village where they have held protests calling for government attention. They weren't giving much attention, moved to Abuja, which is Nigeria's capital, and held rallies in conjunction with activists and human rights crusaders to draw international community attention to the plight of these girls. Because all along, until Sunday, the Nigerian president, Goodluck Jonathan, never made any comment about the way, the situation of these girls, what government was doing to ensure that these girls were rescued, what effort had been put in to ensure that they were brought back home. But for the hashtag BringBackOurGirls, which was initiated and has gone viral across the world, many people wouldn't have known about this plight. Just a day after this kidnap, the president went on an election campaign where he was seen dancing, which is what many people felt was highly insensitive, given the nature that, look, we're talking about over 200 girls being kidnapped, and here we have the president who's supposed to care, who's supposed to, in other countries, who's supposed to have more like this, declared like this as a national disaster. So Nigerians have really not been happy. And as we talk about this over 200 girls being kidnapped, today there was a reported kidnap of about 8 other girls who were taken from same state. These ones have been kidnapped, and no one knows their location at the moment. They were kidnapped from a place called Goza. Goza is spelled G-W-O-Z-A. So right now we're talking about another set of over 200 girls being kidnapped, and another set of 8 girls who have been kidnapped. This is something that had actually been going on for several months. People being killed every day, people being kidnapped on a daily basis. But it did not attract international attention as much as this one, because this involved kids of between 13 and 16 years, which is why many Nigerians are worried that, look, this could have been my daughter. Some of us had to even, beyond our journalism responsibilities, now take it like something of a sort of campaign to start talking about it, because it's something worrisome. It could have been your own daughter, it could have been my own daughter. It could have been your sister, it could have also been my sister. So it's a sort of concern. Government is just saying they're doing their best to make sure that these girls are rescued, but nothing significant has actually been demonstrated to Nigerians that, these girls will be brought back alive. And with, reports of some of these girls being killed, which has not been confirmed, it's also increasing tension, especially among the parents who are worried. Some of them are in Abuja. Some of them who even went to protest yesterday were arrested, reportedly on the orders of the wife of the president, because she claims that some of them were not cooperating with government in terms of providing answers that will help to the rescue of these girls. But then people are saying, is this the fault of the parents that these girls are being held? These parents are looking forward to their daughters being released back to them. And now you're even compounding issues by arresting some of them. And it took combined efforts of both the civil society, the media, for these people, the 2 women who were arrested yesterday, to be released. So right now it's in the major talking point, not just internationally, but locally, because everyone is concerned. Almost every news bulletin in local stations, in international stations, has the mention of the situation of the Chibok girls that have been held since the 14th of April.
Fidelis, I want to go to, that's fantastic summing up of the situation right now, and I think we want to come back to the question of the inaction of the Nigerian government and how we can pressure the Nigerian government to take more action. But right now, Hafsat, if you don't mind, I'd love you to talk a little bit about who these girls are. As I understand it, when they were abducted last month, they were boarding at the school in Chibok. They were studying for their final exams. What kinds of students are these girls? What kinds of girls are they in a place like Chibok up there in northeastern Nigeria?
In a very real sense, those girls are pioneers, because in northern Nigeria, um, it is not a foregone conclusion that you will have girls in school. In northeast Nigeria, where Chibok is, there's about 3% of the girls end up in university. 3%.
So they were very special to begin with, just that they were
very special to be taking that exam. That is the first step to go to university at all. And you know, also in northeast Nigeria, the rate at which girls die when giving birth is the highest we have in Nigeria. It's right now around 650 women dying at the point of delivery of a child per every 100,000 births. In southwest Nigeria, where I'm from, it's as low as 250. The difference between southwest Nigeria and northeast Nigeria is really the age at which these girls are getting married. In northeast Nigeria, they're getting married quite young ages, in their teens, even 13, 12 years old girls are getting married. So those girls that have been kidnapped are girls that their parents have taken an unusual decision for northeast Nigeria to continue to keep the girls in school so that they can be educated, so that they can go on to university and have a different life. So what has happened is deeply sad, because their parents had invested in a different life for them, and that life is now being threatened by the abductors, because the abductors intend to sell the girls into marriage to militants among them. So it's very tragic, and we must do what we can to save them, because otherwise, you know, their story will just, not only will their own life chances be curtailed, but even the life chances of other girls across northeast Nigeria, because you can well imagine that now many families are reconsidering whether it is safe to send their children, especially their daughters, to school.
What is it about Boko Haram? We say that the Boko Haram, the name of the group of these insurgents, these jihadists, means Western education is forbidden. Do they have a special hatred for the education of women? What are they trying to prove here?
I think they have a special hatred for education in general. A lot of the rank and file of Boko Haram are what we call Almajiri in Nigeria. Almajiri are young children whose parents send them out, young boys whose parents send them out of the home to go and beg and to study under a Muslim cleric. So these are not children that will go to a Western school. So a lot of the soldiers, the militants within Boko Haram, are boys that would not have had the advantage of a Western education. I suspect, I mean, I have no evidence, but I suspect that they resent that. They resent the fact that they could not have a Western education. Also, their leaders have the wrong understanding of Islam. Within Borno State, before they even started attacking the schools, before they were violent, Boko Haram leaders were understudying one of the Muslim leaders in Borno State, whose name was Malam Jafar. And their ideas were so wrong that Malam Jafar stopped teaching them, and they were banned from all the mosques in Borno State. So we're not talking about people who are in the mainstream. We're not talking about people whose ideas are validated in their community. We're talking about people who are radicals. They're in the extreme. Their ideas are not validated, but they're trying now to impose their ideas using violence because they were not able to convince and persuade the majority of people in Borno to support them?
Wow. Well, I think, 3 weeks ago when this happened, when this huge abduction happened, as we've heard, that was not the first time. And it certainly wasn't the last time, because we just had 8 more girls kidnapped yesterday. I think a lot of people want to know what they can do to raise this issue globally and really put pressure on the governments that are involved that might be able, if they would do something, to do something. I wanted to ask Gretel Trong at The World at School how she sees this Bring Back Our Girls campaign growing and functioning right now.
Yes, thank you, Chris. It's been an incredible response, but as you know, we are 3 weeks out from when the girls were initially kidnapped. That's just hitting, and I hope not the peak, but just the beginning of international pickup in terms of media, in terms of awareness, and in terms of advocacy and people taking action. And I think it's largely in part to social media and the voices of the mothers and the fathers and the brothers and sisters and colleagues in Nigeria who held in-person rallies and who really started to speak out, asking for help, asking for the government, but almost anybody to start to take action to find a way to find these girls. And that picked up online via Twitter, via Facebook. People started using the hashtag BringBackOurGirls or BringBackOurDaughters. And that really took a force. People really wanted to do something. People started to retweet. People started to talk about it. And people started to outcry. Why, with 200 plus girls missing, has nobody really spoken out about this? As we've seen many other international tragedies take place where youth or people go missing, it's often a huge media storm. But with this, again, we're 3 weeks out, and we're still just beginning to move this needle. 1 week ago, when there were really rallies held all around the world in Nigeria, but also in London, D.C., New York, all over the place, it really started to paint a picture that people care. And with this being online, not only all of your tweets have really impacted people hearing, whether it's Questlove or Common, Taraji P. Henson, Hillary Clinton, our own founder, Sarah Brown, have been talking about this issue because you guys have been the ones out there tweeting. If you think for a second that people aren't listening, people are. As somebody who monitors a couple of feeds, and I'm sure Girl Rising and any Poehler Smart Girls can say the same, is like, we're listening. We see that you guys care. We see that you guys want to do something. You see that you guys want to learn more about what the situation is happening in Nigeria and how people are taking action. It really does make a difference. So it's been because of you, and even a reporter on CNN yesterday said, we've read your comments on Facebook. We see that you guys care. They've sent more reporters down on the ground to report from there. It really has made a difference in terms of being able to make this an international issue, to put this on the nightly news, to put this in the papers. We've had Nick Kristof just read a report this weekend. Malala has come out in support of the girls, and obviously Sarah Brown and her husband, UN Special Envoy Gordon Brown, are on their way to Nigeria this week to meet with some of the leaders down there to talk about these issues and to even bring your voices. On change.org, there's been a petition that now has over 300,000 signatures. And that's been led by the digital advocacy that you guys have put together. And it's about also rallying together with all these different organizations as partners, with Girl Rising and the Smart Girls, in order to, again, make a difference.
Great. Let me ask you a question. Gordon Brown and Sarah Brown, they're on their way to Abuja right now, to Nigeria right now, to the World Economic Forum.
Yes.
A lot of leaders are going to be there. Good luck, Jonathan. The president of Nigeria is going to be there. The man we were talking about is not having done very much to rescue these girls. Is Gordon Brown going to go in there in a stronger position because of the social media campaign, because of the kinds of things that you're talking about, when he brings this up with Good Luck, Jonathan? Absolutely,
because we have hundreds of countries supporting this now. Because of the online advocacy, there is without a doubt, there is proof that you guys care. people around the world care, and that there's pressure now to take action, because if these children aren't found, if these girls aren't found, there will be, I think, something that will happen that will cause people to really outcry, saying that, you know, action must be taken, not only for this to never happen again, but so that, you know, girls and students are protected around the world.
Listen, I want to talk. Meredith, are you there from Smart Girls? I wanted to ask Meredith Walker what people can do. What people can do where they are, because all this seems a long way away. As intense as the emotions are, I mean, I think when we heard Hafsat describing the way the girls are so special in their own society, I think we can all identify with that. That was heartbreaking. I think when we listened to Fidelis talk about the war and the situation there, that's all very difficult, but it's all a long way away. What can people do in their own hometowns? What can they do where they are in the United States or around the world to move this situation forward to benefit those girls and other girls? Meredith? Oh.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. I don't know what happened there, but each of us has something to offer in the fight against injustice, and that's the thing to really remember, that enough of us participate and shout and show that we care, that common voice, that unified voice is going to be heard by the people who can act on behalf of these girls, especially a unified voice coming from so many different places. And so just like what was being said before, and I think what will be talked about in a minute with the action pack, is that every time if you sign a petition, if you write your congressperson or just local leader and ask them to let everybody know that this is something we care about and we want to change, but even something as simple as changing your avatar, you know, all of this becomes a collection of people who really care and are demanding that action be taken. And so we just want to make sure everybody knows that each small act becomes part of this unified voice that will bring about a change.
Yeah. Do you think that the people, for instance, who are protesting in Nigeria, do they feel solidarity, or do they feel the solidarity of people who are protesting, for instance, right now here in New York City or down in Washington, D.C.?
Definitely.
Well, the messages that we receive
feel the solidarity. And
Hafsat, yes,
sorry,
yes,
Meredith, please continue. But I was just saying that the people that have been marching, even on our news, we are saying that all over the world people are standing with us, because you see, Nigerians have been saying for a while to the government, to the federal government, that children have been killed, because before the girls were kidnapped, boys were killed in their school. You know, they're kidnapping the girls, but they kill the boys. And we said to the president that something has to be done, and nothing was done. No action. We don't know who killed them. We knew they were part of Boko Haram. Who they were, they have not been caught. So we've been agitating for a while, but nothing has happened. What is different this time is that the world is agitating along with us. And it's
tremendously important. Meredith, is there more that people can, let me ask Meredith, is there more that people can do, Meredith?
Well, for sure. What people can do is organize rallies locally, and there are lots of ways to get help doing that. But and then pay attention to the great rallies that are going around in every town. And you know, they're calling it kind of a social media march as well, which is whenever we acknowledge what other people are doing, that it collectively becomes a huge rally. But we encourage everybody of any age, any gender, just get together and plan a rally, because that actually is just a great way to participate in this fight.
Listen, I think Tara and Holly at Girl Rising have some things that they can tell people who are watching this that they can do very, very specifically. I think sort of one-stop shopping, as it were, for how to make a difference on this issue. Tara or Holly, are you there? Are you both there? Watch out, you may be muted. Hello.
I think
so.
I wasn't. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So as Meredith referenced, what we've been working on at Girl Rising, along with Amy Poehler's Smart Girls organization, is to develop an action pack that gives people very specific and easy ways that they can contribute to the issue. Because as Meredith mentioned, this is all about united action. And if we really all band together, those individual acts and those individual opportunities to raise our voices for these girls to bring them back home, it will make a difference. So the action pack identifies very specific things to, one, continue to share the story and keep the visibility high. So change your avatar to that Bring Back Our Girls emblem that you see on my photo here. Continue to make the hashtag Bring Back Our Girls relevant and visible, even as we, as global leaders, push forward to rescue those girls. So sharing the stories and raising awareness is critically important. And there are little ways, even here in New York City, that everyone can contribute to that. And as Gretel said, people are listening. Global leaders are listening. The second thing is around continuing to share your voice through specific channels that have been identified, such as the petition that is on change.org right now that Gordon Brown will be able to present to President Goodluck Jonathan when he's there in Nigeria later this week. We're at 300,000 signatures. We want to get to 1 million. And I think it's possible, given the groundswell of support and anger and frustration about not enough being done to help get these girls back home. And then the final piece, for those who are inclined to donate and who want to contribute to the effort, not just around getting these girls back, which is of course critically important and the key outcome right now, but also looking long term, how can we support efforts to make Nigeria a place where girls and boys can go to school safely? Because that's critical. And there are organizations out there who are doing unbelievable work in this regard. And so we've partnered with Catapult, which is a women's and girls-focused crowdsourcing platform, to create a project that would aggregate funding to support Nigerian organizations working on girls' education issues and education issues in the region, so that we can continue to drive resources to efforts to make sure that girls can go to school safely.
Yeah, I think we're going to have open up questions now. Thank you very much, Tara. I think we're going to open up questions now to the people who are listening in. And you know, the questions that are coming in are important and disturbing, I think. One person is writing in, this is not just a Nigerian issue. Where in the world is a safe haven for these girls in places like Afghanistan, Sudan, Pakistan, India? There needs to be global centers of safety for these girls and women in countries. Is there a movement afoot to do that? Is there anything concrete being done to do that on the global scene? Tara?
In terms of global centers, that is an interesting idea. Well, I know certainly in those countries, there are programs that are specifically looking at becoming in local communities safe spaces and safe centers for girls to be mentored, to have access to education, to have access to education services that will help them continue on with their lives and become fruitful and productive members of society. And I'm wondering too, Hafsat, if you can weigh in terms of specific organizations or centers of this type that can serve as these safe havens for girls. In particular, for these girls, perhaps once they have been rescued, where can they go? Where can they continue their education safely if their community doesn't offer that at this current time?
Great question, Tara. Hafsat?
You know, there's an excellent woman in Borno, which is a lovely, lovely place, very hot, over 30 degrees, but just very gentle people. And they've really come under attack. But there's this wonderful woman there. She's a professor in the university, Professor Hawabiu, and she has taken it on herself to organize and coordinate the mothers so that she can support them in the effort to bring back the girls. And then the idea that when we've gotten the girls home safely, we have to look at what they need. Counseling, perhaps we have to relocate some of them if they're not safe, they do not feel safe in Borno State, perhaps to come to another state in the north, or even to come to the south. You know, NGOs in Nigeria are completely mobilized and ready to support and defend those girls. But in terms of trying to create safe spaces, I think we have to get our countries and the governments in Afghanistan, Pakistan, all these countries that have issues like this, and Nigeria, to shift their focus from security, where we think of security as the soldiers' ability to wage war, but to think of security as something more holistic, where we have jobs, we have, we have a response to restless young people. We did not have a response to restless young people in northeast Nigeria, where over 70% are living in poverty, where unemployment is well over 60%. If we do not have a response to these things, you will always have radicalism and you will always have militants and insurgents.
Fidelis, let me ask you, you're right there in the middle of things. I think people would like to know in practical terms what might be done to rescue these girls. We've maybe jumped a little bit ahead. We talk about what can be done once those girls are freed, but between now and then they have to be freed. What do you see the government doing or not doing right now? Is there any mobilization, and what should it be doing? I think you're, wait.
Okay, yeah, you can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the option available to government, has been a bit tricky, which is storm this area and rescue these girls. But then, these people, these insurgents, have been known to be very, very, people that they don't have that conscience to say, let's get into a negotiation. Because first of all, the group is faithless, and they don't want to negotiate with anybody. They've made it clear that, like their name, which is saying no to Western education, they are not ready to even allow these girls to be free. All those talk about negotiation, you now ask the government officials who claim that they are negotiating. Who are they negotiating? They've even told us before now that this group is faithless. So if you now want to just come and take these girls, they already talked about, these girls could be killed because, the way how heartless these surgeons are, they will eliminate all these girls if you come there to pick them. I think it's a case of some persons in the north, in the northern Nigeria, have volunteered that, look, they somehow might maybe have some close links to people who might know these people and maybe appeal to them and see if they can rescue them. But it's a really tough call because they are not open to any form of negotiation. And the only thing is, okay, maybe also from the security point, how about the Nigerian government blocking the borders, making sure the borders are well secured, so that even if these girls will not be moved to the locations maybe to be sold, like the leader of the Boko Haram, Abubakar was claiming, so that if they are in a particular location, somehow, with security intelligence, they can narrow in and just see how, they might be able to rescue some of the girls. Let's be realistic. It might not, all the over 200 girls might not be rescued. Let's be realistic in this case, because some of them have already died, like, according to some reports, still unconfirmed. So it's a bit tricky in terms of rescuing them all alive, all of them coming out. And then now talking about, like what Hafsat mentioned earlier in the conversation, it's difficult convincing girls to go to school, for parents to allow girls to go to school here. And now some of them who are already in school have been threatened, kidnapped and all that. How do we even ensure that after this, even if these girls are all rescued, how are we sure that other parents would allow their girl child to go to school? Because in this part of the world, culturally, and also some of them say it's religion, but it's more of culture, because there's nowhere that Islam preaches that people should not go to school. So culturally, some of them are not so given into allowing their girls. They feel that, okay, some of these girls get married as early as 11, 12, and they're giving out in marriage. So all they believe is, some of them believe is, okay, give out these girls, they get married and they settle down, make babies, and they get sick. Because many girls, or rather women in northern Nigeria, don't work. It's their husbands that work. So it's a case of why rescuing these girls also, we should also be looking at what should be done in terms of sustaining efforts to ensure that girls will be able to go back to school, or the parents will be encouraged to be able to send them to school.
You know,
I
I put this out for Hafsat, for Fidelis, actually, but for anybody. The American government has said it will get the FBI involved. Is that going to be helpful?
That is welcome, Christopher. I was talking to some people in the police forces here in Nigeria and also some people in the army, and I wanted to ask them if they would welcome the international assistance that our president has called for, and they said they would. And we need it. We are aware that we do not have the capacity within Nigeria to rescue these girls. You see, it's one thing if we were to attack the militants or the insurgents. The goal is not to attack the insurgents, but to get the girls back safely. Because that is our goal, I think the Nigerian security agencies are not well trained in that kind of operation. So our president has already appealed for international support on this issue. And for those of you that are calling on your leaders in the United States and beyond, that's something you could do, is to really encourage them to give us that assistance so that we can get those girls back home safely.
But again, Hasbat, if I can jump in here, you know, the Pentagon issued a statement yesterday saying, you know, they are willing to offer Nigeria any form of help. Until last night, when the Minister of Finance, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, was on Richard Quest's show on CNN, where she was saying, okay, we welcome any form of support. But the Nigerian government has not been forthcoming in terms of requesting for international assistance. So even if countries globally are willing to offer any form of assistance, how ready is the Nigerian government, in the real sense of it, to accept this assistance? Because imagine this happened on the 14th of April, and up till now, we're still talking about whether there will be assistance or there will be no assistance. And we're already hearing reports, negative reports about some of the girls dying and some of them falling ill. And the government has not been categorical in coming out to say, please come to our aid. The government, you know, the president was a bit dodgy when he was during the presidential media chat on Sunday, which was even his very first time of talking about this issue, to show you how sort of unconcerned they have been in the past, because they felt it was something that people will make noise like in the past and keep quiet. Because this is not the first time people will be kidnapped. This is not the first time people will be killed in northern Nigeria. You know, but just because these are girls now and it has attracted international attention, that is even why they even maybe deemed it fit to talk. How many people have been killed in the past? We've had cases where insurgents went to a school and slaughtered several young boys, and even the president did not deem it fit to even address the nation about it. So it's been a case of, do I call it no challenge on the part of government? So they need to, at this point, maybe with international pressure, come up and say, look, we are ready to accept any form of assistance and make it formal, beyond just saying, yes, we are ready, but have they contacted these people who are offering the assistance? What does it take? Either a phone call or an email to the US, and they're here, or other countries who have volunteered, but that has not been done. And saying that just in the media for saying sake or for political reasons will not solve anything.
You know, I think we need to step back a moment for some of the people who are looking at this and listening to us to emphasize just how important education is for young women, not only in Nigeria but throughout the world. You know, in the United States, we just take it for granted that young women are going to be educated. I wonder if Meredith could talk a little bit about that and about the importance of focusing on education for young women, and also the impact that that has on the society, a society like Nigeria's or any society around the world. Meredith?
Well, I would just, education is a value and a right that we all deserve and people should be able to exercise. And it's definitely it's being fought against by these people because they see how powerful it is. That's why they want to keep these girls from it. And that's why we have to fight so much for it. And I know Tara has something that she wants to say about this, so I'm going to hand it over to her.
I think the reason that we're all here together also is not only for girls' education efforts and the reality of the situation in Nigeria, but also globally. That there, as this other question had referenced, Afghanistan, Pakistan, the Sudan, there are so many countries around the world where girls aren't given the opportunity to get the education that they deserve. And huge potential is lost. And the reality is, and I'm sure Gretel will also speak to this, that when you invest in girls' education, the benefits are countless. The girls who go to school, marry later, have fewer children, are healthier, earn more money, and they reinvest all of that back into their communities and into their country. So this is why this is something we have to protect. We all have to come together to protect girls' rights to go to school, and certainly to go to school safely, but to have the opportunity to go to school rather than being married at the age of 10, to go to school rather than going out to work when they're 12. Because the benefits have been researched and are tremendous. And that's the potential that we want to harness and unleash in countries like Nigeria, but also other countries around the world.
No, absolutely, Sarah. No, I think we're going to see the ramifications for this for months and possibly years to come. In terms of an example of why it's important to protect education, and as Tara was saying, that giving a girl an education has the benefits for generations. It benefits her as a mother, as a wife, as a member of society. It gives her the potential to earn an income, to do things in the community that she wouldn't be able to do without an education. And as we've seen, it's not just girls and boys as well. With 57 million children out of school, most of them being girls, I think we have the possible to restore hope for many generations to come with education, and the importance of them being in school and also getting a quality education. And being able to learn the things that make them a member of society that, as Meredith was saying, that we often in Western culture, and many children don't get that opportunity. And I think this issue is grasped for a while, something like that, where when that's being threatened, that the world can really unite in order to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
You know, I think people are going to be inspired by what they've heard here today to want to do something right this second. You know, it's one thing to listen to this and think, oh, well, I think I'll go have lunch now and sort of ponder what to do. What can people do right now? I think that Girl Rising has created what they call an action pack. I think we may have mentioned that before, but let's come back to that and focus on that a minute, because that really does tell us, you know, what we can do right this second, the minute we get off this hangout.
I think if you go to girlrising.com, there is an action pack that outlines some of the key opportunities to take action right now. As far as right this second, if we could all change, for example, our avatar to that Bring Back Our Girls emblem and symbol, which is plastering social media, Facebook and Twitter, with this red image inspired by the Nigerian flag, I think that's a tremendous sign of support and visibility. You can even find now online photos of people in the live marches carrying those placards, bright red signs of hope and support for bringing these efforts to bring these schoolgirls back home. So I think that's something that's, if you're on this hangout, you have the ability to just get to girlrising.com, download that image and get it right up on your social media outlets. The other thing I think would be to go right now to change.org and sign that petition, because if you're here with us, then you know the power of collective action to really bring about change, and that is something that we know Gordon Brown is going to bring to the president of Nigeria this week. So we've got to stay with him, and we've got to give him as many signatures as we possibly can.
That's terrific. You know, on the ground, Fidelis, I have a question. You know, as I've been reading about this from afar and looking at it from afar, I hear that the families themselves have been trying to search, that just regular people have been trying to find these girls, that hunters, professional hunters, have been out in the bush looking for them. Is there anything that can be done to support the people who are actively looking for those girls? Transportation, supplies, anything?
Well, just to tell you that initially that was what happened, but that's not happening now. That's just the truth. Because when these girls were abducted, parents, first of all, local hunters and a few soldiers, went out looking for them, thinking this was like a regular, maybe abduction of people that they could find them and all that. But apparently they met a brick wall and they came back. So it was when it dawned on the parents that look, nothing will actually come out of this, that they now decided to team up. I mean, the parents who are, and the relatives of these missing girls. And they walked and they had to transport themselves several kilometers towards where they suspected that the girls were being held, which was where I mentioned before, the Sambisa forest. Sambisa is spelled Sambisa. So they went there, they mobilized transport for themselves, food, water, and everything, and went in search of these girls. But like some of them said when they granted an interview, when they got there, someone who who knows about the terrain warned them off that they should get off that forest, or else they might end up, being consumed, or rather killed in the forest. So it goes beyond giving them water. Are they, how fortified are they? We're talking about people who are using sophisticated weapons that are even more than what the Nigerian military has got. We're talking about people who are driving in armored vehicles. You can't go there with machete or maybe with a Dane gun and thinking you can confront them. And then these are people, most of them, there are reports that some of them are actually like defectors from the military, people who understand guerrilla warfare so well. So these parents are not trained. So if you're talking about support, for now it might just be a case of drawing government attention to see the need to really employ the services of experts. Experts in this sense, meaning security, maybe international security experts. It could be the FBI, it could be the CIA, it could be the Mossad from Israel, or any other security, outfit that can come smoke out these insurgents and be able to rescue these girls. But if you're relying on the parents now leading the chase, it might be difficult because they don't have the expertise and they might actually get killed while searching for these
right.
girls.
Hafsat, I have one last question for you, and that is this experience, both the experience of the girls being abducted and the experience of international attention, do you think that this will be a watershed moment in Nigeria? Will this change things in Nigeria for girls and girls' education, for the education of young people generally, for the Nigerian society? Or is that maybe hoping for too much?
I think everything has already changed because just before I came to this hangout, I was talking to some people, and the Nigerian National Security Agency had a meeting a few weeks ago to plan how to contain the terrorism threat from Boko Haram. During that meeting, they didn't raise the issue of how Boko Haram affects women and girls. It just never came up. Now they're going to have to think about how to protect women and girls in particular from Boko Haram. The truth is, so much women and girls are often ignored in the public sphere in Nigeria. But because of the way that the world has responded to the abduction of the 200 plus girls in Chibok, the Nigerian government understands that we're not invisible, we're not to be just set aside, but that they actually have a responsibility to protect us and to ensure our security. So that has definitely changed, and already we're thinking of having a meeting with people from the NSA to start looking at that strategy, how they're going to be working to protect the lives of women and girls in Northeast Nigeria and across the country. So yes, I think it has really helped make a difference. Christopher, I'd just like to also thank the girls who have been doing all that they've been doing, to thank them for not just being consumed in your own life, and for remembering our girls here as well, and for understanding that they are just like you with dreams that you like, just as you have, and for standing for them, for being their voice in the global community, and for making sure that because of your voice for them, our own leaders here and your leaders all over the world will not just set them aside. Please keep speaking about them until we can get our girls back home.
You know, I want to thank everybody for coming to this hangout. We've got a great momentum going here. We've got hundreds of thousands of signatures. We have, I think, millions of people will be tweeting about this around the world. This has driven media coverage around the world. I can tell you as a journalist, people were not paying attention to this. I wrote about it in the first day or two after it happened, and then it went flat. Nobody was paying attention. Oh, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Africa, 200 girls are suffering and disappeared, and their parents are crying about it. But what did it mean to anybody? Well, it means a hell of a lot to people now. It is really happening now, and it's not just this issue. It's an issue that is the point issue, or the edge, the blade, the cutting edge that can say we can change things for women around the world and for girls around the world with a combination of social media, social activism, on the ground demonstrations, focusing on issues, focusing on this issue. Let's get those girls out of there if there's any possible way to do it, and let's make sure this kind of thing doesn't happen again. I think if people want to continue this conversation, they've got a bunch of places that they can go associated with this hangout. As people have said that they can go to change.org, but you should first of all come back to the hashtag. Use it, abuse it, put it out there anywhere and everywhere you can. Hashtag BringBackOurGirls. You can also go to @GirlRising on Twitter. You can go to Girl Rising's website, and you can go, of course, to Amy Poehler's Smart Girls. Now I have to tell you, this is hard to do verbally. Smart Girls is @ SMRTGRLS, Smart Girls. So go there too, tweet there too, get the message out, get the girls out, and let's make sure this kind of thing never, ever happens again in Nigeria or anywhere else. Thank you very much for joining this hangout.